Hello, wonderful gardeners, and welcome back to the Humus Heritage. If you've been following our journey together, you know we're all about getting to the truth behind organic gardening practices. Today we're settling one of the most debated topics in the organic gardening community. Which calcium source truly deserves a place in your garden beds? We're putting eggshell powder and bone meal head-to-head in an epic showdown that will finally answer the question that's been keeping you up at night. What if the secret to those vibrant, robust plants you've been dreaming of isn't what you think it is? Spoiler alert, the results might just surprise you, and by the end of this guide, you'll know exactly which amendment your garden has been crying out for. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched helplessly as your beautiful tomatoes develop those telltale brown, sunken spots at their blossom end? Or perhaps you've noticed your pepper plants producing weak, hollow stems that can't support their fruit? These frustrating problems point to one critical issue: calcium deficiency. But here's where it gets interesting. While calcium is the fifth most abundant element in soil, plants often struggle to access it, especially during rapid growth periods. This is where the great debate between eggshell powder and bone meal comes into play. Both are beloved organic amendments with devoted followers, but which one truly delivers when your plants need it most? Today, we're going beyond garden folklore and diving deep into the science, the practical applications, and the real-world results that will transform your approach to soil health. Let's start with the humble eggshell, that overlooked treasure you've probably been tossing in the trash. Eggshells are calcium carbonate powerhouses, boasting an impressive composition that's roughly 95% pure calcium carbonate. That's the same compound found in agricultural lime, which immediately tells you something important. Eggshells are serious calcium contenders. But here's where understanding the nuances becomes crucial. Calcium carbonate doesn't just dissolve instantly into your soil, it breaks down slowly over months, sometimes even years, releasing its nutrients as soil microorganisms and acidic conditions gradually decompose the shell material. You know, the key to unlocking eggshell powder's potential lies entirely in preparation. Collecting shells is the easy part, but what you do next determines whether they'll help your plants this season or, well, 3 years from now. Rinsing them thoroughly removes any membrane residue that could attract pests. Then, baking them at around 300 degrees for 10 to 15 minutes both sterilizes them and makes them more brittle. The grinding process is where most gardeners either succeed brilliantly or miss the mark entirely. Using a coffee grinder, spice mill, or even a mortar and pestle, you want to achieve a powder consistency as fine as possible. The finer the grind, the greater the surface area exposed to soil acids and microbial activity, which dramatically accelerates decomposition and nutrient release. Now, here's something that often surprises gardeners. Eggshell powder acts as a natural liming agent, meaning it raises your soil pH and makes it more alkaline. This is fantastic news if you're dealing with acidic soil, which is common in regions with high rainfall or forests. However, if you're growing acid-loving plants like blueberries, azaleas, or rhododendrons, adding eggshell powder would be counterproductive. The calcium carbonate will actively work against the acidic conditions these plants crave. For everyone else, especially those of you dealing with blossom end rot in tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, eggshell powder really becomes a hero amendment. The slow-release nature of eggshells means you're building long-term soil health, not just fixing immediate deficiencies. Now let's turn our attention to bone meal, which is an amendment that brings more than just calcium to the party. Bone meal is made from animal bones, usually sourced from the meat and rendering industry, and it offers a more complex nutrient profile that includes significant amounts of phosphorus alongside its calcium content. Some formulations even have trace amounts of nitrogen too. This broader nutritional spectrum makes bone meal especially valuable for certain gardening situations, particularly when you're establishing new plants or aiming to encourage robust root development and prolific flowering. The phosphorus content in bone meal is what sets it apart from eggshell powder. You know, phosphorus really plays a starring role in energy transfer within plants, root development, flower formation, and fruit production. This makes bone meal the go-to choice when you're planting root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and beets, or when you're establishing flowering perennials and bulbs that need strong root systems to support spectacular blooms. The nutrients in bone meal release slowly over the growing season, providing sustained feeding that supports plants through their entire growth cycle, rather than delivering a quick nutrient burst that washes away with the next heavy rain. However, bone meal comes with important considerations that you absolutely need to understand before incorporating it into your garden. First, bone meal works most effectively in slightly acidic soil conditions, ideally with a pH below 7. In alkaline soils where pH climbs to 7 or higher, bone meal's effectiveness drops dramatically because the phosphorus becomes locked up in forms that plants cannot access. This is the exact opposite situation from eggshells, which thrive in acidic conditions but push soil toward alkalinity. Second, and this is particularly important for those of you with pets or living in areas with wildlife, bone meal's smell can attract scavengers. Dogs, raccoons, and other animals may dig up your carefully tended beds, searching for the source of that enticing aroma. Finally, because bone meal is an animal product, it's not suitable for those practicing vegan gardening principles. So, after examining both amendments thoroughly, which one wins this epic calcium showdown? The truth is beautifully nuanced. Eggshell powder emerges as the champion when your primary concern is calcium deficiency, particularly when addressing issues like blossom end rot or building long-term calcium reserves in acidic soil. Its 95% calcium carbonate composition makes it a more concentrated calcium source than bone meal, and its ability to act as a liming agent provides dual benefits for gardens struggling with low pH. Bone meal, however, wins in scenarios where you need a broader nutritional approach. When establishing new gardens, planting root crops, or creating cutting gardens with masses of flowering plants, bone meal's phosphorus content provides benefits that eggshell powder simply cannot match. The slow-release phosphorus promotes the vigorous root development and flower production that transforms good gardens into spectacular ones. For gardeners with neutral to slightly acidic soil who need both calcium and phosphorus, bone meal delivers impressive results. Here's where we translate all this knowledge into action. The absolute first step before adding any amendment is conducting a proper soil test. This isn't optional, it's essential. A comprehensive soil test reveals your current pH, existing nutrient levels, and specific deficiencies, allowing you to make informed decisions rather than guessing. Many gardeners create problems by adding amendments their soil doesn't need, leading to nutrient imbalances that can harm plants just as surely as deficiencies do. Testing kits are inexpensive and widely available through cooperative extension offices or reputable garden centers. So, if your soil test reveals calcium deficiency and acidic conditions, eggshell powder becomes your primary amendment. You'll want to apply it generously, working several cups of finely ground powder into each garden bed during fall preparation or early spring. This gives it maximum time to break down before the peak growing season, which is really important for plant health. For faster results, you can create a calcium acetate solution by mixing eggshell powder with vinegar, letting it react completely, and then diluting the solution before applying it as a soil drench. This process makes calcium immediately bioavailable to plants that are experiencing acute deficiency symptoms, which can be a real lifesaver in some situations. When your soil test indicates phosphorus deficiency and a slightly acidic pH, bone meal is your strategic choice. You'll want to apply it at planting time, mixing it into the soil around root zones so that plants can access it throughout the growing season. Use about 3 pounds per 100 square feet for flower beds and vegetable gardens, but definitely adjust, based on your soil test recommendations for the best results. So, remember that more isn't always better. Excessive phosphorus can actually interfere with your plant's ability to absorb other essential nutrients like iron and zinc. The most sophisticated approach combines both amendments strategically. Use eggshell powder as your baseline calcium source and pH adjuster, then supplement with bone meal in specific areas where you're growing phosphorus-hungry crops or establishing new plantings. This layered approach addresses multiple soil needs simultaneously while respecting each amendment's unique strengths. Always incorporate amendments thoroughly into the soil rather than leaving them on the surface. And be patient. These are slow-release amendments that build soil health over time rather than providing quick fixes. If you found this deep dive valuable, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Share this guide with your fellow gardeners who are struggling with the same calcium confusion we've cleared up today. Together, we're building a community of informed gardeners who understand not just what to do, but why we're doing it. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep making that Humus heritage proud.